Hello and welcome back to another video on Behind the Curve Gaming. This week we're going to be basically doing my PC setup revision 1. I need a much snappier title than that, but it's the gist of it. So I'm going to just quickly show you a few items that I've purchased this week, essentially through eBay Balance, Vinted Balance and my CX voucher. So it's actually left me with only spending about £12 on Amazon for one thing, which is really handy. So let me quickly show you a few things. So first of all, I've got a couple of Powerline adapters. Now these are really handy for getting an Ethernet somewhere on the property or whatever, basically via your electricity cable, just a standard electricity cable. Plug this into a mains adapter next to the router, and then you plug the other one in somewhere else, as long as it's at the mains itself and not through an extension cable, and you will have an Ethernet connection. So very handy little things. Secondly, a hopefully half decent Wi-Fi extender. Now both of these are going to be for the shed. Now unfortunately our router, I imagine it's the same for a lot of people, is right at the front of the house. That's where the fibre cable comes in, and our shed is about, let's just say it's 25-30 metres away. And that means the Wi-Fi is very iffy on reaching out there. I have a very old extender that I've probably had for about 10-15 years and it doesn't really cut it. So I'm hoping a much more up-to-date, recent and a better, higher quality model will mean that we do get Wi-Fi out there. I'm sure there are lots of other much better ways of covering a much larger area with a good Wi-Fi speed and signal, but I'm old school. It's Wi-Fi extenders and Powerline adapters. At least budget options, these were around £15-20 each, and that was all eBay Balance. So theoretically I haven't actually spent any money whatsoever, and those are for the sole purpose of getting the printer, and not a Cricut, it is a Silhouette machine. Getting those out in the shed, so hopefully they have a solid connection so that they can stay out of here and they can stay in there, and that declutters the space. Now the main item of this kind of purchase, and that is what I purchased with CX voucher, is an upgraded monitor. Now the one before was a very standard HD Acer basic monitor, 27 inch, so it's a decent size, and to be fair, it was very bright. I think it was an LED panel, but I wanted something better. This is a 1440p monitor. So this morning I've lugged the old one into CEX with me, and hopefully I should be getting a voucher anytime this afternoon for about £32 or £35, depending on what grade they give it. And this one was £115. So this is a Kuryu, probably butchering that, but anyway, it's a 27 inch curve monitor, 1440p, 144 Hertz. Yeah, that should be the specs are much better. I'm not quite sure of the brand at all, but from a very quick Google, they review quite well. They are obviously budget monitors, but new, I think you're looking at about 150, 160 for something like this. So 115 for a grade B, and I covered that with voucher, so that voucher wouldn't have cost me that much to make. So quite happy to trade the old one in, get this one. So with obviously the bezel's going to be much smaller, so it should take up a little bit less space. And then we're on to the last two items that I picked up this week. We've got a RC30 RGB soundbar thing. Basically, one, it's white and light grey, so it fits in, and two, it only apparently needs a USB cable. I'm not quite sure how. I thought everything would need at least a 3.5mm jack and a USB or something, but yeah, not tested it yet, but it just needs a USB jack cable, which compared to the old, my little 2.1 Logitech speakers there, they needed a 3.5mm jack, they had a cable to each other, and they had a main supply, and they weren't particularly good, and they're just annoying and in the way. So looks better, less cables, and RGB, cool, okay. not complaining. On to the final thing. So this is apparently like a PC / monitor riser. So typically you might put a monitor on this to raise it up, to raise it up when you're sat at a desk or something, so the monitor's at the right height for your eyes if you don't have height adjust. A lot of budget monitors, even like this one, they don't have height adjust, they just tilt. Which, looking at it, could be a problem because it is quite low. I'll just have to go down on the stool. So yeah, the idea behind this is the PC goes on it because it's not the height of the PC isn't an issue. So if that goes on it, then my thermal printer can go underneath it, and I can also try and hide some of the wires, which means I've got a little bit, it's not such a wire fest right in that corner. The PC will be able to go back into the corner a little bit more, and it'll just be, it'll be a lot neater. So yeah, I'm going to try and set you up somewhere and just kind of time lapse this or speed through it or whatever, and hopefully we'll end up with a somewhat satisfying PC setup, at least for now, until we get to revision 2, I guess. Right, and there we go, nowhere as neat as I was hoping it would be in my head. Obviously, that's how these things go. I've completely lost all my Velcro cable ties. I had a whole bunch of those once upon a time. Don't know where they are currently. So yeah, that wasn't a very satisfying process to go through. Basically, most of the wires are kind of like scrunched up and put under there. But I think it'll be, at least from the last video, it's a much more compact and satisfying area now, and I got into my head that I wanted parts and performance, but I think in reality I want this to be a much more aesthetically pleasing setup initially, so I keep coming back and I want to use the computer and everything. The last thing I need is to spend a load of money on the inside of the parts and to be like, oh, I don't really like the look of anything there. Because it's just gonna turn off the idea in my head of wanting to play games or use the PC whatsoever. So that's how things have gone this week, and as I say, I basically used up my eBay balance. I think this was something like £18 open box but unused. It works absolutely fine, and we put some music or sound on, it kind of flashes to it. You can turn the RGB off. It's not particularly strong. I think they're just 2 little 5-watt speakers, so it's probably not as good as the little Logitechs I had before, but it's one wire and it's absolutely fine for what I need. If I want to be playing something properly, I'll just put my headset on, and that's going to be pretty superior anyway. That's not changed. The monitor, there is kind of like a screen bezel, which I didn't really realise. I thought it would be full, but there is a screen bezel, so that's kind of annoying. On the screen itself, the actual plastic bezel was very minimal. When I did initially turn this on, it would only go to 1080p. It's because the cable I had wasn't good enough, so I did dig out an ultra fast HDMI cable, and immediately I've got the option for 1440p, 144 Hz. So I've not used that in anger yet. I've literally just picked this up this morning. It's all good for grade B. It looks absolutely fine. The guy said nothing's ever grade A. I guess it's not got the box or the instructions maybe, and it was pretty grimy and a bit smudgy and disgusting. So I made sure it worked first, and then I've given it a clean down, and it looks all good. I've not noticed anything so far in terms of like burn-in or lines or dead pixels or anything. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. I think everything that I wanted to do has worked. Weird. So my next step is to make some balance back. So I've got no balance left now. Make some balance back. Get back onto actually trying to sell some stuff around the house that I've already got in the shed that I don't need. And then I'm going to try and get, I think, a white case, just to complete the kind of look that I was going for. Parts wise, probably no parts yet. There's nothing that I'm playing that needs it. I've been looking around for those white cases, and I think I want to say my motherboard is a proper full-size ATX motherboard, so that does limit me. I can't go down to a micro ATX case, which would be a touch smaller. So I need to find myself a similar size case. I don't want a bigger one. A similar size case, which is white, which blanks at least the bottom where the PSU and the extra cables go. And I think that's going to be it for a little while on PC stuff. Then we're going to get in some games. So thank you to anyone that watched. Please give me some comments below of what your thoughts and feelings on this. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.